Hello and welcome. I'm Sean Dube.
And I'm Patrick Quinlan.
And this is Supporting Actors, a podcast about the art, business, and craft of acting from two working actors.
And today we're going to talk about a phrase that every actor hears at some point, which is, you should create your own work.
That's better than one agent that told me I should get famous on YouTube.
Kind of the same thing, though, if you think about it. It's more results. It's framed as a result, right? Get famous.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he was like, you should just go interview people after movies and see what they think. And I'm like, I don't know that that's
very
what I'm
cynical.
looking to do.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah.
Then you would get cast only as interviewers. You write separate interviews in a show, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, but anyways, so what does it mean when someone's like, create your own work, right?
Yeah. So I thought it'd be fun. We could talk about the different levels of creating your own work. How much it costs? How much time does it kind of take? What sort of goals can you have from that, or learn from that, or what results might be reasonable to expect, or might be, depending on what you're looking for. I think what your goal is kind of matches what the thing you're going to try to make. Though maybe the lesson is if the thing you're dreaming of making doesn't align with your goals, you should try one way or the other and start a new project on something else.
Right. Yeah, having goals is important, and I think it's also important to think about what you have available.
Yes.
Right. Because I think the bar for creating your own work is a lot lower than you might think. Right. And like, there's a trap that I think a lot of us fall into when we're thinking about it, which is like, but it's not ready. And it's like, it's never going to be ready, especially that early stuff. You should almost like be a little embarrassed to look back at it.
Yeah, exactly. So, part of it, making your own work, I think, is what you learn from the experience of doing that. Like the ability to fail and fail and fail, and hopefully at a lower cost. But, if it depends, I think, we'll talk about it, I guess, the different motivations to make something.
Well, let's get into the motivations of it, right? Because like I'm a filmmaker and I'm a director, and for me, like I wanted to do something that was like substantial and like had a full standalone story. But creating your own work might also be like shooting a scene for your reel.
Yeah.
Right. Or just working on something with a friend for the sake of improving, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be something you want to publish. There's a lot of different reasons that you could be doing your own thing. But so I do think that like scope is important. And why do you want to do it?
Yeah, so every project I think can there's probably a few things you can get from it, but if you're making your own thing, something you believe in, it's important I think to decide what the goal is. Like you said, getting together with a friend, that would be practicing your craft, right? That would be really, and maybe you're filming it, or maybe you're just reading it and you're working on script analysis, or maybe you're filming it and you're working on different camera angles. And like, close-up versus medium shots, you're experimenting with tone, you're watching the replay to see what you learn in that experience. But other options, of course, would be to like learn filmmaking, which you've done quite a bit.
Yeah. I think it really depends on what you like. I do think it's worth, even if long-term you try it and you're like, I don't want to be a filmmaker, I don't want to direct, like, because I totally understand that too. But it's worth understanding how things go together in a sequence to tell a story. And I say that because you're often shooting stuff out of order. And I think it's easy to get lost in like the big picture of it, right? So one of the things you learn even shooting with short films is that there is a cause and effect that happens. There's an accumulation to storytelling. And that's one of the things that's beautiful about, we're talking about film, but this is also true in theater, right? It's like how you do, we tell stories with time and behavior. And that's something that as you make your own things and watch them back, you begin to understand little things that you can do as an actor to enhance the storytelling, to give yourself more play, to give yourself more freedom to, or to like, sometimes it's like, you learn how to become director proof in a way. And what I mean by that is that sometimes, you might get hired by someone who doesn't know what they're doing yet, and they're kind of figuring it out, and you can help them out by being like, hey, if I block here, or I see what you're doing with the camera, so let me do this, offer this as a potential thing, so that way we're preserving continuity, so that way you don't have like a mess in the edit. And like I started thinking about that stuff just selfishly, so I would have so I knew that I'd have a reel that I could use. Mm-hmm. So I would start being like, oh, hold on, I don't like the way that this is going.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to get cut from this, or sometimes you just see a problem that you're like, oh, all right, because and that could be for a number of reasons. Like maybe you're about to lose the location, or you're about to lose the light, and like some stuff that was important is getting cut inadvertently, and you can be like, hey, I might be able to get that important beat in this coverage, so that way we have it, and we're not like harpooning the shoot, right? To like, and you try to think about, one of the things you learn when you shoot your own stuff is that what takes forever is setup. And then if you want to add variation to do different takes, like that's not a problem. What takes forever is moving lights and moving the camera. You're going to change everything. You're going to move the world all over, right? So I think it just gives you that freedom and that understanding of how to be economical with storytelling when you need to be.
Yeah, I think you'd also like, you kind of touched on it, but like if you're creating your own thing and making, say, a short film or a scene or whatever, but you've got crew there, it's kind of like tech rehearsal in theater. Like you learn the stop and go, so you have to manage your own energy. You have to like preserve yourself. You have to like stay engaged at certain times to be ready to turn it on when things are ready, and then also like come down in between on those long breaks.
Yeah. Well, and you also like will learn your cadence and like when you're good at stuff. Right?
Yeah, what
like
comes
I know
naturally when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and or just even, some actors need a few takes to warm up, and others are great right away and taper off.
Yeah, do you like going first in coverage, or do you want to go second after the other person's gotten their stuff?
Or even if you're thinking like, oh, we're starting in a wide, we're getting to a close up, and I have an emotionally tense like moment that I'm trying to hide. I might want to save the biggest bit of that for the close-up.
Yeah.
Right. Or and that doesn't mean you're not doing it in the other shots, but you might go 80%, and then that medium you're like go 90%, and then it's all right, tight. So let's empty the well now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And then maybe try to do it again.
Yeah. And they're like, Sean, that was so great. It was a little soft. Can we do it again? No, but you get in that headspace, right? Because sometimes, like, if it's a heavier thing, you might not want to carry it for 6 hours. So which might take you to shoot that scene. So it doesn't mean you're not doing it, but it's just like how deep it is and how fully into it you're letting go. You'd probably say for when you're in tight. Which is something that if you were in theater, you're just letting it rip from the start. It's not something you need to think about, right? You don't need to manage your energy in the same way. But sometimes film is like, it takes a lot of stamina, because sometimes you're in certain scenes, you could be acting for 8 hours, and that's draining.
Yeah, and if you're making your own thing, you're using all sorts of stamina, because you're also moving some lights and sandbags in between takes, and maybe you're ordering catering or like pizza for everybody, and so you're just tasked. You're multitasking, or you're switching tasks, and your brain is going to be fried at the end of the day. But it's really fun and worth it to like try to get through that. And we'll talk about those projects, but just in terms of like I guess we've talked about craft, we've talked about kind of learning filmmaking, practicing your craft. It's also making something as a way to market yourself, and then in today's parlance, to build an audience. So we'll talk about which things might serve you to like meet casting directors or maybe get an agent or manager, or connect with other filmmakers. And then, certainly there's the idea of making something to just throw it out there, start trying to just show people that you're doing stuff and that you're being creative, and that can draw an audience, that can draw a community and creative fulfillment, I suppose. Those would be, I guess, the categories.
Yes. Yeah, to bring it back to what we started on before I took us down a tangent. At least it was an interesting one that was on topic this time.
No, for sure. Like,
but it's like, why are you doing this, right? Because it could be for like a self-tape reel, if you're light on material, if you haven't had anything new this year, if it's a quiet year, right? Everybody's been doing short films right now because there's been no work, right?
Yeah.
So like, and that's the way that people are getting into it, or verticals, right? So but you might want just a professionally shot scene for your reel. You might want to explore a character, right? And this could be a more fun way to do it that gives you something tangible at the end that's not necessarily scene study. It could showcase you that thing. So then your agent has it to, when they submit you or pitch you for things, or like, hey, we've got this great love interest new bit of material, so like let's try to do that, right? Or whatever it is that you're interested in. You can show producers and directors that you could carry a scene.
Yeah,
that's also like important, right? Can you give us an arc that's not just a self-tape, right? Like you want to see how does this thing cut,
or a couple co-stars where it's like you sort of exposition machine a few different ways, but they want to see some depth or a turn in your character or
I think there's also value if you know if you have a monologue that you love, that you want to think of a cinematic way that you could do it or put that thing on film. Do it. Why not? Like that is a great way to get some more material.
Well, is there something like, because we've both created things in different capacities and worn different hats. Like, what's been a primary motivation for you?
So I started doing a lot of the other filmmaking, learning a lot of the other filmmaking positions to become a better actor, right? To kind of like understand and investigate the role of the actor from different lenses on set. And that was kind of what, got me into writing. That's certainly what got me into directing and shooting. Was, part of it was practicality and boredom and like really wanting to make things. But it was also, and it still kind of is, like under the guise of like, how do I, maximize my efficiency and utility as an actor when I'm on set. And that's, I've learned so much from working with other actors and teaching other actors. You get to a point where that is keeping you engaged with your own craft by working with someone else, right? Because there's just some things you pick up doing the job about how to make things look good and be honest, right? Like, but then there's also an ease that comes with just doing it a lot and being on set. And it's like, for me, it's now it's like if I'm acting or if I'm shooting or directing or whatever, it's like directing for me feels like an athletic exercise. I don't know why that is, but the rest of it feels more like a dance. But there is this like give and take playfulness. That's there.
Well, you got to push a boulder up a hill. Directing, you have to keep track of so many more. It takes of everybody a little bit, right? Or producing or directing, like you've got to keep track of so many things that's exhausting.
It makes you the ultimate like motivation chameleon. Right? Where it's like everybody has a different language that they understand to get you what you need as the director. So you're constantly like, this person needs to be coached, this person wants to be left alone, this person needs to be shown what's happening. It's like there's some people need to understand, some people don't want to know, and it's like you just have to figure out what that is and feel your way through like what the right approach is for any given person on any given problem.
Sure.
And that, so there's a lot of EQ going on, hopefully, for directors.
Yeah. I guess I've come at it from a different angle, because the two big projects that were shorts that, and big quote unquote, like, but in terms of time and a little bit of money and more people, would have, they were still sort of, the root of them was trying to play a specific character, and get that on tape for myself. And even though there was like, we'll do film festivals and it's collaborative and learning, ultimately it's like, I have this little thing, I know I have this great moment to share on my reel. But I went through the long phase of learning all of the other aspects of filmmaking to get that piece, I suppose, right? Because I probably could have done, as we'll talk about today, the different levels of creating your own work. There's faster, quicker ways to do it too.
Yeah, for sure. Not every project needs to, you need to throw a lot of money at. And if you look at a lot of, there's a lot of people on social media that are doing great work. They're spending no money and spending no. I wouldn't say they're not spending time. That's not fair.
There's a lot. There's like a secret amount of time, which is probably editing on their phone potentially.
It's editing on the phone, or just doing a million takes until you get something right. Like I'm thinking specifically, like there's a couple people that I've enjoyed their work where it's just like one bananas take every time, and you're like, they must have done this 12 times to get one. Sure. And it's like, but that. Probably 2 hours of their day just to get this 90-second reel, and that takes a lot of time, and you got to like be on a spot and you have to have an idea. I find having an idea to be the hardest part, but if you do it a lot, it gets easier.
Right. Well, let's talk about, I guess, like the very first thing is like just doing the work, right? We mentioned getting together with friends and like essentially acting class, but like maybe doing it outside of acting class, like on your own, in your living room, or in someone's backyard, putting up a night of scenes, something that's free, something, a friend of mine just did, they do it in Chicago, it's called, I'm going to get the name wrong, but it's like Backroom Shakespeare or something, or Barroom Shakespeare, and it's just like, they do one rehearsal and they put it up, a full production of a Shakespeare play in a brewery or in a pub. And go for it. And so something that's free, minimal time, few hours, mostly your friends, and that could be getting together, reading scripts, that could be workshopping scenes, your own scenes. It's not about finding an audience. It's just,
I would even say like doing self-tapes for scenes, like on your own, is in there too, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
I think that's
you and a reader, you and a friend could like, hey, let's just sit down and work on some stuff and do some scene work, and why not introduce a camera, right? And just do some like audition style, like scene reads.
Yeah, and there was a trend in the last couple of years of people putting together, I think because of Instagram, but just sort of like and because of the pandemic couldn't book as much work, people were just putting together reels of audition scenes, but I think curating almost like what would be a great role for me and my type, and let me show you the like 3 different versions of it, and just showing off a new tone or what, and that's free. That just takes a little bit of time and energy from your friend who's being the reader, or I mean, if you put a couple self-tapes together, that doesn't take much editing by any means. But I was at a casting workshop recently, and the casting director mentioned that she's like, yeah, those are really popular. I think those are great for casting. Like, casting is happy to look at something like that. She's like, maybe you can get it to agents or reps, but they probably won't ever use that to pitch you to producers or a studio network. So you'd want something more polished. So to me, it's like, well, if your goal is to kind of like show what you can do, and that your type, or a couple different like worlds that you exist in really well, putting that together and sending to your reps, sending out to castings feels like a smart play.
Yeah, I think so. And I would say almost none of these are going to be a waste of your time.
No.
Right. Creating your own work, which I think is why you get the advice so often of create your own work, because they're all worthwhile and you're learning something, and then you often have something to show for it, or you have a performance if you're deciding to produce theater for yourself, right? Like I've had friends that have produced one person shows that have gone on then to go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, right?
Sure.
And
happening right now.
That started as like doing stand up, and like this is an actor. This is someone I went to drama school with, and like she just found ways to turn that into a one person show where she can kind of show different sides of herself, and she's like wonderful with accent work, and she's super funny. So it really, but again, that started from this of just like her wanting to do things. And
there's a snowball effect, right?
There's a snowball
creativity, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of us talking about it right now. I'm trying to talk myself into like just picking another idea and like committing, because I think
it's hard.
Yeah, it takes time and energy, but like it will, like you said, there is a payoff, and even I think another great payoff would be you learn so much from what doesn't work out, right? Like, oh, it costs this much money to feed a crew of 5 people on a Saturday. Like, interesting. Now I know, and but or everyone was mad about the pizza. They don't want pizza because they get paid in pizza all the time. Like, oh, okay, get some sandwiches.
Yes, get some sandwiches, get something a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, oftentimes, now we're talking about like things have grown a little bit, right? And now you're calling in favors to shoot this stuff. If people are working for free, especially, or they're working for way under rate, at least feed them good food and make it fun.
Yeah.
Right. Like
that's kind of
at the very least, that needs to be a priority of like, make sure that people are fed and happy. And then they're going to be like, hey, this wasn't so bad. I wish I got paid more, but like, let me know next time you're doing something. They know it's not going to be every week. But unlike this show, which if you're enjoying, please comment, like, subscribe. Tell us about your experiences with creating your own work. You can send us a question or a comment, ask@supportingactors.com. Well, getting back in, coming up with ideas can be tough, and there's a lot of different varieties, a lot of different genres you could do. Sketch is somewhat popular and can be a great way to flex comedic muscles, and I could really see this lending itself to comedic work or commercials, right? Like a lot of commercials, I think, do look at that. And then if you have like a great 30-second skit where you're funny, like that is a great thing that a commercial might be interested in.
Yeah, and I think sketch, sharing something on social media, like it takes a little bit more work. Maybe you have, because you have someone holding your phone or something if you're going to perform in it, or you have a couple other actors or whatever. But depending how elaborate you want to be, but you don't have to worry about it being perfect. Like people share so many things. There's also like formats that you can just steal and try to like, I've seen people, whatever's trending, and it's like, do that. Not like a TikTok dance, but like, oh, this is a bit people are doing. Let me add another thing to it, right? And just try to and an idea that's already out there, unless you're just like churning out ideas. But you could also, like you said, film a monologue that you love, try to make it cinematic and just post it and see what happens,
which mostly would be nothing in most cases, but it's a volume thing, right? Like, especially if you're posting stuff on social media, like almost any of those, like you should be making them almost for yourself at that point.
Yeah.
And like, some people will be like, hey, this is great, I really enjoyed this, or like, who did your lighting or whatever random comments you get. It's still worth doing. But I think the other thing that's worth mentioning with sketches or when you're doing social content that's like a higher volume is you want to take the pressure off of the performance of any individual one, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing so many and you're going to get reps. And the whole point is to get comfortable with doing it. And like sometimes like, I don't know about sketch because I haven't done that, but I at least know from making content for social media in a professional sense that sometimes the ones you like care the least about and you're like, well, this is kind of crappy, but let's put it out there. Like they do the best and it's really bizarre.
Yeah.
So like it's almost like the freedom from outcome gives you that permission to like, well, we tried something.
Well, you're going to get feedback right away too, right? Yeah. You're going to be like, oh, people seem to like this thing, and like maybe I'll try that a few more times. And you're also going to find your voice. Maybe that thing doesn't inspire you, and you're like, I don't want to make that. I'm just going to continue making this other weird thing I like doing.
Yes,
that would be. There's a lot of value in that.
Absolutely, and finding your voice is important, and finding what's important to you, right? Like I think all material is political, whether it's explicitly so or not. But that's something that I discovered through just making a lot of stuff and acting and stuff. You just start to figure out that like the part of you that gets excited to tell stories, and that's awesome because then that makes it easier to kind of keep the ball going. And then there's a lot of like, I get a lot of creative fulfillment from it, and it takes a lot of pressure off of acting, which, sometimes you need.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've made some sketches in the past, like for social media or helped in other people's sketches. And, I think, like you said, if you're making it for you, it kind of doesn't matter what happens, right? If you're just like, if there's something else you're still trying to get out of it. But in terms of people who are trying to make something to go viral or to get attention or to whatever, like it's so like the metrics, there's so many metrics to judge all that stuff. So it kind of becomes pointless, I think, because it's just like, well, we hit this metric, but these people like that metric. And, it's just like, unless it's connected to a ton of other things and you have a whole pitch packet for why, Comedy Central should be resurrected from the dead.
There's a lot of vanity metrics that don't mean anything, and that would be like followers and views. Yeah. Right? Like those are, even though they seem like they're important, it's kind of a hollow metric. You're really wanting engagement. You're better off having 1,000 people that engage than 10,000 that don't bother. Right. So people that share, people that comment, people that, really become true advocates for what you're creating, like that's much more important. That's a much better metric. And the other one too is like if they're clicking through to go to your website, people are DMing you, right? Like that's engagement. That is much, much more important than the number of likes or views or follows.
Yeah, so and I guess I'd add to that, like thinking about, thinking when you start making your own stuff and you're just like, okay, I got some ideas for sketches, let's throw them out there. Your chances are, you want a casting director to see it, or you want a producer or director to put you in something, but probably you'll find other creators and other writers who are writer directors who are making their own stuff already out there too. And you're going to get connected to them, and then who knows, like what could come of that. But I think, there's, the fact is like, since everyone's working less, everyone's trying other things. So everyone's thinking outside the box. So you might find some really interesting people that you connect with through an Instagram thing. And there certainly are a lot of people who are doing insane business, creating content on Instagram.
For sure.
I just don't know if it can be taught that like in a workshop. But.
Yeah. But if you were to take the next level of this, right? So like you've got skits, maybe like 2 to 4 people, you're filming them in an hour. It's like,
you're just finding locations, stealing locations.
Yeah, and you're pumping them out. You're probably doing a couple, you're probably batch shooting them where you're going to get 4 or 5 in one area, right? And it's just kind of like, They're not low effort, but in terms of the amount of help you need to complete it, they are, right? So the next step though might be like you want to shoot a scene like professionally. Let's say, all right, I want to be a lead in a suspense film.
Right.
So how can I shoot a scene with a couple of people that builds a lot of suspense?
And it feels like it's legit. Feels like it
feels legit.
An hour-long show or a movie. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, all right, so now you're talking about like you either need to have a real camera or you need to have a friend with a real camera, or you're renting a camera, right? Like that's an option. And there's affordable ways to do that. But now it's like, I think at like create a scene that looks legit is the first thing in this list that starts to cost money.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a silly prop or something, which you need for a skit. But but in a scene, it's, that looks legit. You're probably thinking wardrobe. If you don't have something, you're going to have to get a piece. You might need a prop that looks legit. It does need to be.
You can maybe do natural light, but you need a sound guy at least. Like
you need a sound
you're
person.
You're gonna try lavs, but like it won't work. So
if there's one piece of advice in this whole podcast that you pull, it is prioritize audio.
We're sponsored by Sound Guys, that one sound guy I know association.
And listen, there's going to be sound people that will share this clip.
But yeah.
Right. The sound people. It's like they travel single file to hide their numbers. They will share this clip because sound is so important.
It's so important.
I think
it's huge.
With film, we're often kind of trapped in the visuals. Our brains are really drawn to that. But listen, it takes 24 frames to fool your eye. It takes 48,000 samples to fool your ear. So it's like sound is crucial. And people will tolerate a video that doesn't look great. You could shoot this on your phone and have it look legit, especially now with the phone. But if it sounds terrible, people will tune out. That's where like the primary feeling that we that we find when we're watching pieces comes from audio. So like prioritize sound. So if you don't have a good way to do that, that should be one of the first things that you're thinking about when it comes to creating a scene that looks and feels professional.
Yeah, and I think we're probably saying that costs between 500 and depending how many favors you can pull, like a couple $100.
You might be able to find a sound guy for a couple $100 for a day.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're doing if you want, hopefully you have a plan maybe where it's like, I want this scene and I have the perfect actor who needs the opposite part, or maybe you're going to pool your resources and do 2 scenes in a day and help each other out. But overall, all in, because maybe depending on what your resources are, do you need an editor? Do you want to do color correction or like have someone take a pass at find places to make it look if it looks good and sounds good, people I think will be receptive. More people would be receptive to that. Like an agent would accept it on a reel. Producers, networks, they'll accept it. There's so much content out there. It used to be, I think, that you needed only legit television film on your reels, and now I think there's just no one knows. There's too much for anyone to keep track of.
Big time.
So if it can pass the smell test, it's good.
Right.
But then you're going to want to make sure it's written and you got to put a lot of thought and time into it.
Since the soapbox is out, I think another unsung hero of Hollywood are the writers, right? And there's a bunch of aspiring writers out there that don't leave their houses and have no friends, and you could be that friend, and they would have really great material. And if and I know this too because I have a bunch of friends that are writers, and if more often than not, they would be so thrilled to have to help you come up with something, right? And writers oftentimes are like idea machines, and if you have an idea that you don't know where to go with it, they'll give you 3 or 4 different ways that you could solve that problem, and you'll find it'll at least get you thinking about the way that you want it to go if you're writing it yourself. Or they might have a scene that is great for you, right? Talk to them, right? This is where you really want to start thinking about networking and finding the people that, that the one photographer that's got a great eye that maybe might be interested in video. This is like, if you're young and starting, it's like find those friends and give them a chance because they're doing the same for you. And if you're an older person, it's a little more challenging because you're often meeting people that are professional already, or, but you can still find people that are able to do it for a price that you can afford. And, doing a scene is definitely doable. And it might, I think if you're spending more than $1,000 for a scene, you can shoot a short. But it's like for a couple $100, you could definitely shoot something that totally feels legit.
Well, that's the crazy thing too, because I've been looking at these just because they've been advertised, because everyone's trying to make a living these days, and it's harder and harder.
Yep.
But like there are services that will you pay them, I want to say $3,000 to $5,000 a pop, and I don't know what they're promising, if they're promising one perfect scene for you or 2 or 3. There's versions out there where it's like pool your resources that looks a little bit more fun, but it's still, it's still about, I think 1,000 is the minimum to go to a place that churns them out. Now you'd have to like do your due diligence and be like, is this scene, are these well written scenes? Do they feel, do the actors in them feel like they've gotten direction that makes them good? Like, because I think we can all trust our taste a little bit, even if it's hard to execute right away. Like you could keep trying and working at these scenes, and maybe get together with friends and create a little mini studio just to be like, cool, we're going to go around the horn every weekend with a new person to be front and center in the scene. I'll hold the boom op one weekend, and the next week I'm on in front of camera and stuff like that. But
yeah, and it's a great way to learn. But but
it gets cost prohibitive, and then go and start making something longer, not 2 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I might consider something like that if I didn't have a network of filmmakers.
Yeah.
If I didn't know anybody and I needed something legit, like let's say I've booked a couple things and I've got a little spot I've got a gap on my reel or something, and I just didn't know anybody, or like if my skill level wasn't matching my taste to do it myself, right? And then I wanted to take some time off of an acting class, like that might be.
And I would say, I think like the level of those has gotten better over the years because everything's been democratized, because things are a little cheaper. So even though it's a price tag, if you can't find a way to do it yourself, it's probably, but you feel like you need it because you want that thing to push the decision makers to a yes, or you want to be on set. Like that's a good way. It's a faster method than racking up student short films for sure.
Yes, which aren't always guaranteed, and sometimes you don't get the footage,
or if it's going to be any good or whatever. Yeah,
or if it's going to be good, or right. I mean, those are still worth doing.
Yeah, but you like. If we're trying to sort of Frankenstein a career together, it's like, do a little of this, little of that, put it all like.
Oh yeah, there's like, there's not one way. All right, so let's say you've shot a scene, or you are thinking, or you have an idea that's bigger than that, and you're thinking about short films. And I think this is where a lot of us, there's this point in your career where you're like, all right, that's what I need to do. I need to do a couple shorts. And it seems like the number of shorts that people do is way more than you would think. And I've met a number of people that were like, we're going to do 10 shorts. And that's just how they figured out doing, like how to make a movie, right? Was like, let's just shoot 10 short films of totally different genres and just do a variety of things to kind of really figure out the nuts and bolts of filmmaking and how we can create a system to do this. And then let's find funding for a feature.
Oh,
which way more difficult now. But, if you have 10 of them, you have a body of work that you could show, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a huge body of work, 10 shorts.
Yeah.
for me, it's probably like those are like 3 or 5 is like, okay, that's a lot. But I also like direct documentaries at work every day. So I have a different exposure to it. That is, but shorts are awesome and they're super fun to make. And there's so many ways that they're different from a feature or different from anything else. And they're kind of hard to do. It's hard to tell a short film, like it's hard to make a good one because there's so many constraints with like the time limit, and it needs to be as long as necessary but as short as possible.
Right.
And there's some things that you can't. I can't say that you can't, but there's a lot of room for experimental things as well. And I would say you want to be pushing that storytelling. Like there's something about it that you want to be non-conventional, and those are the ones that seem to get into festivals.
Yeah, and
right. There's like something a little unconventional because like convention is great for features, right? It's great for sales. You're not going to sell a short, so shorts need to be interesting. Is kind of how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, and I think like in terms of like everything we've discussed up to this point is something that can go pretty quickly.
You can do it in a day
and doesn't have to cost a ton of money. But a short film, even if it's, I mean, there's a great account on X that's called like No Budget Filmmakers. I think they have a podcast too, and they will post about people making short films for $500 or less, and you can do that. You could start there. There's and you could build your network, but most likely it costs a significant amount more money and time too. Like time is just a big part of it, and so you're not necessarily making it for your acting career. You might be making it for other opportunities. Maybe you want to be in, I think short films have taught me like, I really like producing a little bit, and I like wearing different hats. So I've thrown my hat into the ring to help other friends on projects, whether they were shorts or features. You might want to use it as a networking thing, or use it as a, flexing different muscles mostly. But you're looking at, a short film, if everyone was paid properly these days, I hear is like $30K, which is, if I don't want to spend $30,000 on a short film because it takes roughly 2 years of your life, and you don't get that money back.
There's not a market. No, it used to be that you could make a short film and sell it and maybe recoup costs, but they also weren't 30 grand, which is like now the new union rate for everything.
And it used to be you could make a short film and get into Sundance and start having meetings, and that's just that's not true in the traditional sense. There's just so much more competition, but there's other avenues. And it's like, maybe you make a short film, it gets attention of Sundance, and they invite you to the lab, and it's just so many more. It's a longer path, I suppose. It's not a lotto ticket like it once was.
No, exactly. So I would, encourage you to, doing what you're doing and producing, volunteering is a great way to get people to volunteer and help you do yours.
Right.
So like you can bring the cost down that way, but also thinking about, you think about efficiencies when you're shooting or like when you're planning. This is something that, the director and producer that you work with to create a short film, they'll, if you have a budget, it's like you need to get creative on, what's the minimum crew we need, like the absolute minimum crew. Can we do this with a 5-person crew? Is there someone that we know that I know like owes me a favor, or does somebody owe the director a favor or something? Right?
Or someone who really likes me and wants to help, and
for sure. And there's a couple positions that you absolutely need. Like, your director might also be a shooter. They might also DP. That's possible, or they might also be a writer, or might also be a producer.
Getting people to
the director might be a bit of a ringer. That does a couple things. But generally, it's like you want a director, you want a cinematographer, which means that you're going to need like you need a sound guy. We already talked about that. Sorry, sound person. Um, we talked about that,
And
then
yeah,
like, but that's three. But then it's like, but you need a gaffer in a grip usually, right?
and
So like
someone
you need
has to be
someone to
paying
put up
attention
stands.
to
You need
when
someone
lunch
that comes
comes
lights.
and where
Yeah.
the actors are coming from, however many actors
Right,
you
and then
have.
you'll need PAs,
The
and
next,
then like yeah, and if you have a fairly complicated shoot, or if you're doing a couple different locations, or if there's a lot of people involved, like let's say you have a lot of background, that means you're going to want an assistant director, right? So like you can just see how the crew starts to go pretty quick, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, we got 7 people, 8 people working at $350 a day, which is like a sweetheart rate, right?
Yeah.
So that's for at least for working professionals. If you're younger, or if you know students, right? Then you could probably they might work at a reduced rate because they're not like working professionals yet, but you should still pay them if you can. But that's also like one of those things where make sure it's a great experience. Make sure that there's opportunity for them to learn something. If it's you make sure they're getting something out of it if they're helping you out. But yeah, so there's ways to reduce the cost, but
yeah,
short
$30
films
grand is
are
everyone's getting paid perfectly, and some people raise that money on Kickstarters and Seed and Spark.
There's a lot of ways to do it.
But and they're hiring their professional friends to like probably still work below scale, and they're probably, because they're at that point they're maybe buying insurance and
yes,
and all sorts of other things. So it's just like, I've seen people make short films for $50,000 for it. I'm sure the Academy Award short film program every year, I don't know what those budgets are, but I'm sure they're insane.
Not nothing.
And so it's like you can do it for way less. It's just you're going to wear more hats, and you're going to wear and it becomes a project that's separate from your acting. I think is the big thing too. It's like you might be in it, acting in it, but you're also going to be doing 1,000 other things, and that's fun and exciting, and you have to remember that because you have to be able to switch back to being an actor, and you don't get to be a prima donna, or have bad behavior on your short film set when everyone's showing up.
You can go find a mirror and yell at yourself.
Yeah. Now you gave me an idea for a short.
Yeah, right. It's like an actor that is like a wonderful producer that everybody loves, and then
you're just beating himself up in the mirror. Okay, we got an idea. You got to talk these ideas out.
For sure. But yeah, so shorts are awesome though. To bring it back to that, they're definitely worth doing. You could do them for a variety of costs, with a variety of reasons, like a variety of ideas. Right? There's a lot of utility in shorts, and I do think they are worth doing. But there's not really a business to sustain them anymore. So like, just know that you're doing them as a showcase, right? You might be able to get better reps, or you might be able to, you'll certainly meet more people.
Or you throw it online,
festivals is fun.
And you get some attention, maybe. Like that certainly happened. You could submit to festivals, which is just another thing to factor into that budget, because that's not free.
I mean, Curry Barker, right? Like that's or Kane Barsons. Both of them were just doing shorts on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to say just doing, but like they started by doing shorts on YouTube and on
I
TikTok,
think they started paying people
over time
a low amount to like come and be a part of it, and then he found the financing to make. They put a feature out for like that the milk and cereal for like $800 supposedly, but then they found the financing for his next project because of that. So
right,
it's a calling card, and it's a way to network, but it is another thing that's separate from the part of your actor. But is it an incredibly creative experience though too, and you're collaborating with people, and it's really fun. I mean, we didn't talk. I mean, that's short films. I feel like that's kind of the cap of maybe where we want to talk about today. But certainly, there's bigger swings of like doing web series, or verticals, as they're called today. Writing your own one-person show, like you mentioned, producing a play like a black box theater or a 99-seat theater here in LA. Writing a longer thing, that would be, becoming a hyphenate, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. Those are all things that I think they're worth doing, right? Or it's worth at least exposing yourself to decide if you want to do it or not. And you might not like it, right? Like you could produce something and be like, well, I just want to act.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of those people, and that's great. And but now you know.
Exactly.
Right. And but it then channels it will help streamline your process then, because then you're like, all right, I have to go meet people. And that's now the goal. And chances are, if you want to be an actor and you're not interested in this other stuff, you're probably interested in networking. That's been my experience anyways. When you're just like, oh, I'm just an actor, I don't want to do this other stuff, you're probably more social than average. It's just an observation. Funny. Yeah, but there's still a lot you can learn about your craft from doing this, and there's a lot you can learn about the business from doing this, which is mostly that there isn't much business. But any one of these things, though, can be a great reason to reach out to your reps. Can be a great reason to reach out to casting. Like, hey, I've got this new scene. Right, so you're giving yourself a reason to stay busy. You're not waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah.
You're not waiting for the C-mail to come across your desk. You can just do this on your own. Like, no one is going to tell you no. And this is one of the few things in acting where that's possible.
And you can sort of give back to your community too. Like if you've got an idea and you have the gumption to make it happen, and you want to bring in people that you've met, like from acting class or wherever, what an opportunity. People will show up, and people will want to do a good job, and there's, you have I've heard, there's stories of Grant Heslov, who's George Clooney's producing partner, Smokehouse Pictures or whatever their company's called, is he was doing audition tapes for people back when it was VHS. He was helping people get their auditions on tape, and now it's they took that, they both got acting work, and then they leveraged that into the other experiences they had into sort of producing, storytelling sort of thing. So being an actor is one way to tell a story, but chances are you'll be called upon, or you'll have the inspiration or desire to maybe try your hand at other things. And these are just a couple different options to dabble in, I suppose.
You're always going to have the ideas that require money and require effort, but then there are ways to shoot great material with little to nothing. And it's just getting creative and finding the right idea, leaving yourself open to that. Hopefully this has been informative. Well, this has been a fun one, man. Let's hit some ad libs.
Sure.
So ad libs, listeners, if you're relatively new, are kind of what they where ad libs come from is something that's off script, and usually they're funny or fun or providing a bit of joy or utility. So it could be a variety of things, but it's not necessarily acting related, and it's just a little bit of something that we're enjoying in our lives.
Yeah, I got one. I got two. I got one, which is the new show you need to be watching, is called Furious on Hulu.
Okay.
It's Liz Meriwether, who did New Girl, but then later went to do The Dropout, and executive produced another show that was pretty prestige drama that I can't remember off the top of my head. But Furious is female FBI agent Emmy Rossum tracking a female serial killer, and the cast is incredible, the writing's great, the direction is fun. It's different directors, different writers every show. People are really getting to flex their muscles and show what they can do, and it's kind of a genre that feels familiar because it's a little 80s 90s pulpy sort of, you know, thing, but every scene has a little thing that's just unique or different, a character, a line of dialogue, and there's, I think, 6 episodes out now, and there's two left in the series that are coming out soon. And then my other one is just this. There's an actress I've been following for a long time, Anna La Madrid, and she moved to Spain at the beginning of the year, and she just published a Substack called 9 Months Living as an Actor Abroad, and it's a really heartfelt, honest portrayal of like, had this great idea, harder than I thought. Here's what I've been dealing with. Here's what it looks like. It's just a really interesting, and I commend her on the vulnerability and the honesty of just being like, yeah, it's going. It sounds cool on paper, looks cool maybe on Instagram, but like this is the reality. And so I would recommend anyone check it out. Her Substack's called Beyond Hollywood, a working actor's guide.
All right. Nice. My ad lib this week is going to be I'm wearing it. It's these Adidas. They're the Mercedes Formula One team apparel, and they're like oversized sweatshirts and oversized T-shirts. I got them clearance on the F1 store, but they're so comfortable. So like they're like unbelievably comfortable. So I definitely recommend the Adidas oversized. I'm sure you can find it. That's not for Petronas Mercedes-Benz Formula One team, but they're just awesome hang around the house clothes.
Does it have a Mercedes logo on it or just Adidas?
It's just Adidas in the front, and in the back there's like racing stripes that say like Mercedes Petronas Formula One team.
Interesting.
Yeah,
because what was the deal?
the
Like, what was the discount on clearance?
Oh, this was like $30, and it's normally like $100.
Hell yeah! So, great.
Yeah, it was a great deal.
My wife would be very proud of you right now.
Yeah, right.
Loves a deal.
Yes. No, it's been awesome. But yeah, thank you. This has been another episode of Supporting Actors. So feel free to reach out, send us a comment or question via email at ask@supportingactors.com. Like and subscribe, leave a comment wherever you're listening to this. That helps other people find the show. So if you don't feel like sharing it, but you want other people to find it, that's a great way to do it. You can also share it. That still works as far as I know. Well, thank you so much. I've been Sean Dubé.
I'm Patrick Quinlan.
And tune in next week where I reveal how to eat a whole batch of cookies in a single sitting.
But can you do it in multiple takes? That's the question. Do you need a spit bucket?
A little more challenging. I could probably get through without it, but spit bucket would be wise.